Awesome. Okay, so let's start with your I guess, like, maybe we could jump back into your career a little bit. So, like, you started your career as a associate at Booz Allen Hamilton, and you have worked at TPG, Kirkland, and Ellis. That's, like, the famous law firm, and now you work
Infamous,
at
maybe.
now you work at Goat House. Why don't we start with, like, what are some core lessons you've learned early on in your career that you kind
Mhm.
of took into, working at Goat House?
Yeah, it's quite a circuitous journey. And if you look at my LinkedIn, it kind of seems like there's a thread, but I assure you, every step of the way, it was not intentional. I mean, to some
Mhm,
degree, it was.
mhm,
But what I like to tell a lot of early career professionals
mhm,
is that behind every shiny job listing on LinkedIn on my profile, there's like 10 more rejections behind that. So when I first started, I broadly had an idea of what I wanted to do. If you told me like 10 years ago to my 20-year-old self that I would one day end up working at a nonprofit, I would have been like, what the heck? Where did I go wrong? Right?
mhm,
Because in my early 20s after college, I just wanted to work at like the most prestigious, largest, well-known firms. And so that was what I was trying to optimize for. And then, after I graduated, went into consulting. I thought that's like the next best move, just maximizing my future optionalities.
mhm,
But, I think that was actually pretty good for me, even though my motives were just to maximize like compensation, prestige, title, and so on. It did give me, it was a really good learning ground in the beginning.
mhm,
Um, there's two managers, Jason and Michael, that I do respect so much. They
mhm,
gave me the autonomy and the trust to just kind of do what I wanted. I had a lot of entrepreneurial energy, so entrepreneurship. And
mhm,
so I've been working in a big corporate environment in like a very resource heavy environment. Just gave me the flexibility and the safety just to try different things and just to prove to myself that, oh, if I have an idea and I could go execute it, maybe a good impact could come out of it. Um, and that's where I tried a bunch of different things. I did data analytics, data science there. Really learned that I do enjoy like starting something from scratch. So me and a couple of colleagues, we started a pro bono consulting group within Booz Allen, and we kind of grew that across different offices and recruited a lot of different colleagues.
mhm,
And so I had managerial experience too. So like the first like couple 4 or 5 years at Booz Allen, I think gave me a really good foundation and a ground to just even okay, here's like a starting point.
mhm,
Um, and even within this kind of like organization, I could excel and do good work and learn from managers and mentors who kind of showed me the early ropes. And after that, I went to Northwestern to pursue my JD MBA program. I always thought I was going to be a lawyer. And a lot of it has to do with the
mhm,
fact that I have Asian parents, come from an Asian background. I said, okay, great, I'm going to go be a lawyer. And I shared the story recently, but you know, I was so assured that I was going to go be a private equity lawyer at Kirkland and Ellis
mhm,
that the week after I got my acceptance letter to Northwestern, I emailed a partner at one of the offices here saying like, hey, I didn't start school yet, but I know for sure I'm going to work at Kirkland and Ellis, and especially in your department. And then he's like, great, like come like next summer or whatever. So I was like, okay, sweet, this is my dream job, and I got it. And I think I was just kind of navigating through like, okay, I almost like gaslighting myself, this is what,
mhm,
because I just had in my mind, this is what success kind of looks like. And so, yeah, during my time at Northwestern, I picked up work at TPG because I thought private equity was like the
mhm,
dreamland. Um, and then I spent the summer at Kirkland and also at another private equity firm in New York.
mhm,
And I got offers from both, and I thought I would just be super excited, right? This is my dream come true. But I just felt so depressed. It's like I
mhm,
learned some great skills in each of these companies, right? I think having a legal background and a business background, um, just very complementary skills to have. So
mhm,
from like a perspective point of just from perspective, I was looking at the same business issues, but from a legal perspective and business perspective, you pick up a lot of different things. I think that's super valuable, and I don't regret that whatsoever.
mhm,
But internally, there's just no real passion for it, and I didn't really feel purpose. And
mhm,
so I think, yeah. And when I kind of thought about it, it's like, okay, where's the alignment here? I did pick up, the ability to work in corporate at Booz Allen and being entrepreneurial there. Have a legal background, work at Kirkland for a little bit too. Same goes for private equity and finance. Like work it out, put that all together. That
Mhm.
fits with my passions and my true purpose, and something that'll make me feel alive. Um, and after just contemplating for that a bit, it just came down to founders to me.
Mhm.
Because my parents, my grandparents, they're small business owners, founders, entrepreneurs as well. So I kind of grew up seeing that journey. I did a couple of my own businesses as well, like starting from high school to college to now. I was always working on something.
Mhm.
And in Northwestern too, I started a business with a couple of my really good friends, got money from the school. And that was like the best part of school for me. And so I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I think at heart and in my blood, I know entrepreneurship is kind of where I want to spend the rest of my life. But more importantly, for and within the Asian community,
Mhm.
I want to just harness and apply all the skills and experience I've gathered in the past decade to uplift the people that I truly care about.
Mhm. Totally. I love that. I feel like you have the new traditional Asian son, like, thought
Yeah.
processes, like, everyone's, like, going through, like, climbing the quote unquote corporate ladder slash career ladder,
Hmm.
until they hit to the point that, like, they didn't really like what they do, and then they
Yeah.
like pivot onto something else. I wonder, like, okay, maybe we could start with a Gold House. Obviously, I feel
Mhm.
like every now and then I would see, like, people taking selfie with Michonne or like some
Yeah.
like Asian celebrity at Go House, and then obviously it's kind of becoming that, like, I feel like it's a great, like, I guess, like, social media sticker to be like a Gold House associated member as an Asian person. Like, I wonder what is Gold House and like how does this related to the Gold House found?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, Gold House is, we call it a cultural ecosystem. It is a nonprofit, and we do Asian empowerment representation work across all industries. But as you mentioned, our claim to fame and how we came to spotlight was working with a lot of these celebrities, and
Mhm.
particularly in the entertainment and media space.
Mhm.
Gold House actually came about, I want to say like 7 years ago when
Mhm.
there was like, the Stop Asian Hate movement during COVID.
Mhm.
This was one of the first times that a lot of the Asian leaders just kind of gathered together to really make a stand for Asians, right? And
Mhm.
prior to this, even like 10, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
um, I think it'll be difficult to find a united Asian community. And it was difficult to imagine that being Asian would be cool and celebrated, right?
Mhm.
Um, a decade ago, we're still being, there's discrimination, being attacked, and so on. So Gold House kind of came from that. Um, and so, what it's grown to now is like we do a lot of consultation work, a lot of, casting, uh, and
Like
scripting for all
casting,
the
like,
move or like helping with casting, right?
okay.
With like all the major film studios, and TV distribution networks and so on. So we're very heavy in the media entertainment space,
Mhm.
with the purpose to make sure that Asian talent is recognized and our cultural
Mhm.
narratives are being told with respect and
Mhm.
authenticity. We do have a membership. Think of it
Mhm.
like a YPO for Asians, and I think the common
YPO for
perspective.
Asians?
Basically, yeah, yeah, yeah. Our membership network, it spans over 2,000 members,
Mhm.
and these are, C-suite members, executives, founders, investors, celebrities, icons, and
Mhm.
so on. People think that Goldust is just celebrities, but if you look at a membership list, the vast majority are people in industry, the
Mhm.
founders, and so on. But I
Mhm.
think that we started with, the celebrity network, the actors, actors, so the talent, and of course, they're the most high-profile people.
Mhm.
But if you like the actual work, it's yeah,
Mhm.
spans across so many different types of people across different industries.
Totally. Wait, so
Mhm.
how do you guys got started? Like, I know, I think I listened to prep our podcast. I listened to like other Gold House podcasts about, like, I think Bing started like as like a
Yes, Bing
YouTube
Chen. Mhm.
manager, yeah, and like YouTube creator manager or like head of creator manager. So, but like, I guess, like, how do you even pull in these like really big profile Asian celebs or like leaders?
Yeah, it's the founding story is pretty amazing. So much respect to our founders, Bing Chen,
Mhm.
who basically started the creative economy at YouTube.
Mhm.
And also our other founder, Jeremy Tran, who went to
Mhm.
Harvard Law School, worked at this prestigious Big Law job. And they both quit their respective amazing careers to start Gold House unpaid for like the first 2 years, right? Like Jeremy was about to make partner, and Bean could have like done like a startup and made millions, but they're like, no, this is like truly is what's important. Um, I think the founding story is that when Crazy Rich Asians was coming out, this was like a huge cultural moment for just Asians in the US, right? Prior to Crazy Rich Asians, there wasn't really like what Joy Luck Club. There wasn't really any films that was directed by an Asian person. The cast was majority Asian, and this was our chance to make sure we broke into the mainstream. I mean, if you look at today, like Asian produced contents everywhere. They're winning awards, getting recognized. But back then, this was like our big moment. So our founders just, honestly, just a couple blocks down from where I live in San Francisco, they just gathered a lot of like the leaders in like tech, business, media, and so on. And everyone in that table, I think it was a couple dozen, just kind of committed to be like, we're going to promote Crazy Rich Asians and just to demonstrate a show of force. And I think that
Oh,
really
wow.
unified, yeah, especially during like the context of COVID and everything too. Asians are strong together. We support each other, and they scaled this across different states as well, in like New York and so on. And so just to make sure Crazy Rich Asian was a box office hit, and then as you know, Crazy Rich Asians blew up. And I think that was just like the beginning journey. And after that, anytime there's a movie or TV or something, everyone just gathered together to just kind of support it and make sure, as Asians break into the mainstream and everyone kind of sees it, like just like how people view us, right? Like there was like, 10 years ago, like Asian men on like TV or mainstream media, they're kind of cast in a very condescending way, right? That maybe just very effeminate or creepy or super nerdy and just kind of pigeonholed in this derogatory way. And same for like Asian women too, right? They became like sexual objects and like submissive. And that's just kind of like how mainstream media portrayed us. But I think Crazy Rich Asians kind of inverted those expectations. And nowadays, you don't really see those typecasting.
I wonder, so how do you think about like that compared to like I guess like pivot onto like a venture arm? So like
Mhm.
obviously you guys invest in some of great like consumer brands.
Yeah.
I guess like how do you think about first of all like let's say when you guys were like raising the fund from the beginning, were the LPs like just like primarily celebrities or the people who are in the YPO club or like how how did it all started with the fund also like for the YPO club, how do you even convert people into paying like a huge membership fee? Like I
Yeah.
just feel like it's so fascinating because like I think like the tier ones like they may be like not trying to pay because like they are there to like attract other people, but however I feel like just like asking anyone to pay anything it's like not easy. So just
Mhm.
curious, like how do you guys like even start like with the membership?
Yeah, I think the membership, if you just look on a website, there is like a pretty daunting criteria to enter, and that's kind of
Mhm,
intentional. It's not that Gota is trying to be exclusive or elitist,
mhm,
but I think just like the highest tier of membership,
mhm,
there are levels, I would say, and there are multiple entryways to get involved and participate in Gold House.
mhm,
But yeah, at the highest level, I don't think membership is paid. Once again, this is more like a community, like a family,
mhm,
and just more recognizing that hey, like if you're excelling in this particular industry, there's also like network effect, right? Like
mhm,
join our community, and we'll all kind of help each other. So we don't really monetize off of like membership fees or dues or anything like that.
mhm,
Um, and also, I guess how this relates to a venture fund, which is I think you asked it like a couple minutes ago, so I'm finally getting to address it too.
mhm,
Yeah, I think Fund One was kind of like a proof of concept. Like we
mhm,
do have this membership base, right? So we got high net worth individuals and a couple of well-known names, maybe like a family office here and there, just to
mhm,
kind of contribute to this fund. And of course, our GPs
mhm,
contributed as well. The fund itself is led by three GPs, which include Bing Chen, Eric Fang, and Megan Ruan, who's kind of like manages the day-to-day operations and who I work very closely with.
Oh, I think she
Um,
is also speaking at the consumer AI VC
Oh yeah,
summit.
in yeah,
Yeah,
in
I'm
yeah,
also
yeah,
there. Yeah, I'm also speaking there,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think
she's
Brian.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, And so yeah, Megan is one of the founders of Gold House Ventures. So she's been with the fund for like since the beginning. We started off as accelerator first,
Mhm,
and after 2 or 3 batches, we decided to convert the accelerator into. We still do an accelerator, but also use that traction to raise a fund and show like, hey, a lot of the cohorts from accelerator, they're doing exceptionally well. We would love to invest in these startups that we're helping incubate. And so we raised Fund One for 3 or 4 years ago now. Um, and then that's mostly came from like, the friends and families of Goldhouse. We're raising Fund Two, and that'll be much more
mhm,
institutional, back off the success of Fund One. But yeah,
mhm,
that's how kind of Goldhouse Ventures relates to Goldhouse Foundation. We are under the same like parent organization of Goldhouse. But now the mission is just like a little bit different, right? It's just like an economic extension of Goldhouse Foundation. How
mhm.
do we invest and uplift and ensure that the next generation of Asian founder entrepreneurs get the
Mhm.
same level of support and recognition as well?
Totally. I wonder, so how do you pick what to invest in? Because it could be like literally anything. Asian people could
Yeah.
start anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. I think in any industry, in any field, any sector, you will see
Mhm,
Asians excelling, right?
mhm,
The fund itself is sector agnostic for the most part. There's some fields that we don't invest in, deep tech or robotics or something that's extremely capital intensive upfront. But aside
mhm,
from that, our portfolio has a different mix of sectors.
mhm,
I would say the biggest ones like B2B SaaS,
mhm,
AI. We have some in healthcare, fintech,
mhm,
e-commerce enablement, a couple marketplaces, and so on.
mhm,
And I think it's really difficult to just kind of say like, hey, focus on one particular sector.
mhm,
Um, Earlier on in Fund One, we invested in a lot of like well-known consumer brand names,
mhm,
and in the beginning, I think that made a lot of sense for us.
mhm,
But nowadays, like look at the technology shifts and like what is kind of exploding and look into the future in the next like 5, 10 years, we're definitely focusing a lot on AI.
mhm.
And AI just as a technology, not more like a specific sector, because we think AI will change every industry. So lately, we're just being more focused on that. And if you ask us kind of what we kind of look for in Asian founders, it depends on the stage, right? And so most of our investments are at the seed stage when there is like signs of product market fit, there is
Mhm,
customer data, there is traction, and so we do look for a bit of those metrics. But
mhm,
for our accelerator, I think a
mhm,
lot of that just has to do with the founder, and we like to say proximity that
mhm.
they have to the problem they're solving and the skills that they have.
Totally. Okay, let's talk about maybe we could cover the font
Mhm.
size, the check size, and like maybe a bit of like portfolio construction. And you mentioned like font one was like mostly, I would say like there's two, like the consumer, and then now you guys are focusing on AI. I wonder for like at the beginning, like I think the consumer projects that you guys invest in are like very D2C. Like, well,
Mhm.
um it just literally like some of them are like I feel like are Shopify brands.
Mhm.
Obviously they're really successful ones, like because I personally purchase a lot of like the different things there.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
Mhm.
like the We founder was on our show too. So like I
Oh,
wonder
yeah.
for when you're thinking about the consumer brands, like how do you pick one versus the other? Just because every day I see like I think at the beginning when I was like in the Asian group, like a lot of people were posting about like the boba tea or like there's like
Mhm.
400 different things, but like obviously you guys pick some of the great brands like um Fly by Jing or like Osmos. I don't know how to pronounce their name, but like the
Yeah.
size thing or like Sanzo water. Like how do
Mhm.
you think about like which one will be the winner? Because like I for me a lot of the brands on the group are like super like interesting to me as a
Yeah.
Asian person, but like I don't know how to like how do you differentiate like the consumer brands? Because I feel like that's like probably one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, I would say consumer is probably the most difficult
Mhm,
sector. And my hot take is that I think consumer founders are the best founders.
mhm,
Because if you're able to thrive and survive in consumer, that means you're like exceptional at running and managing a business. I think our early ones with like Samsung, Flyby, I think we invested at a later stage, not at the pre-seed or seed. because that's where a lot of the ideas happen, but
Mhm.
the founders just kind of failed to reach the distribution or the unit economics. So for a
Mhm.
lot of our consumer portfolio, there was something um, either about the founder that they had just like really deep retail or consumer experience, or they've
Mhm.
already gathered a lot of traction and they were moving, offline into like retail stores too. Because,
Mhm.
I think you do need that scale in order to, reach profitability and so on.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think a lot of the brands we invested early already had some name recognition and they're moving quickly, um, and they're like getting stabilized. So
Mhm.
earlier on, and even then, I want to say like around the time we first started, I
Mhm.
think Asian brands there is still like coming up, right? Like
Mhm.
Sanzo was still getting into Whole Foods and so on. And so
Mhm.
I think it was a little easier to choose back then, just
Mhm.
because that's when all the pioneers were coming in.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I would say it's like almost impossible to figure out who's going to win or lose,
Mhm.
especially because the paid media landscape right now is ridiculous. Digital marketing so
Mhm.
expensive, CAC all time high.
Mhm.
Social
Mhm.
if you look at the broader economics of the tariffs and everything, so
Mhm.
uncertain, right?
Mhm.
And now consumers are just flooded with so many options.
Mhm.
And it's never been easier to become a consumer business founder. And then so the barrier of entry is like really low. You could spin up a website and start selling it literally within like 24
Mhm.
hours.
Mhm.
So the competition is extremely stiff. So yeah, I think it was a little bit different back then compared to now.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I think we're extremely strict about what we look for if it's consumer. We haven't made
Mhm.
a consumer investment this year,
Mhm.
but we're still looking for the signs. And there's a lot of great like Asian consumer brands, but in order to reach that venture scale, it takes something very special.
For sure. How do you think about, like, I guess, like, the, from, like, I know the font size, I mean, I don't know, can we talk about
Mhm.
the font size on
Yeah, we could. Mhm.
okay. I know it's, like, 30 million, but, like, how do you think about, like, the portfolio construction? Like, since I feel like we have some consumer, there's, like, AI. The AI thing is, like,
Yeah, yeah.
very different than consumer, I would assume, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think so our GPs are very skilled, very experienced, and I think some funds are hyper focused on one sector.
Mhm.
Maybe they're just purely into consumer or purely into marketplaces, and
Mhm.
some are just like stage investors, like they only do pre-seed or super early.
Mhm.
Ours is a little unique in the sense that we do anything from like pre-seed to like up to Series B.
Mhm.
We are mostly still early stage, and we just invest across different
Mhm.
sectors as well. The only mandate we have is like the startup has to have at least one Asian co-founder, and
Mhm.
we do take a pretty broad definition of Asian too. So when it comes to, if you look at our portfolio, it's $30 million, right? That
Mhm.
means like we only do follow-on investing. We don't lead right now out of fund one at least.
Mhm.
And our portfolio, it's mostly early stage. A lot of it are investments in our pre-seed accelerator, kind of like our original thesis. We run the accelerator,
Mhm.
um, and we invest like 250K into the most promising ones or the ones that in the cohorts. And then for direct investments, we usually look at the seed, and also we also look at the trends of technology and so on. Likewise, like consumer could have made sense like a couple years ago, but nowadays extremely hard. So we kind of moved away from consumer. AI is still in the early innings, so this is where we're spending a lot of our focus. And when we look at the actual companies, it's one, like I mentioned, it's like the proximity that the founders have with the problems they're solving and alignment with their, experience, academics, network, and so on. But two, we also look for early inflection companies. And of course, this is usually more likely early stage, but there's some companies at the Series A, or even Series B that shows like it's about to just like take off. And when we see those signs and signals, we definitely want to make sure we capture that too.
Mhm.
So although we invest the span of pre-seed to Series B, I would say like 80% of our investments are like the seed, pre-seed stage.
Mhm. How do you think about, since, like, you mentioned about, like, it's like a full-on check, is every company that you invest in the same check, or, like, how do you think about, like, constructing your portfolio, like, and then in because I
Mhm.
feel like for the earlier stage companies, typically a lot of people do is like they just invest in the same check, a same size of check to
Mhm.
every company, and then whatever ownership you got will try to return the whole fund, or like what's the
Yes.
philosophy for you guys when it comes to that? And then like you mentioned about like full on, I guess like you just meant like you're you don't lead any deals, but like I guess like do you guys do like um full on for the next round too,
Mhm.
or how do you like think about like actual full ons?
Yeah, so no, that's a good question. So for follow-ons, I think there's like a couple of different camps here.
Mhm,
Some people say like you should double down on your winners.
mhm,
Some say, if you follow on, you enter like a higher price point, so that kind of dilutes returns,
mhm,
and so on. Um, I think for us, our strategy is that we have a couple core positions, and
mhm,
across every portfolio, you
mhm,
see that some will do well, some won't, and that's just part of the power law. And every portfolio has different percentages of which ones are successful and not. For us, we have a set of core positions that I think will all of them will return the fund.
mhm,
And for those, we definitely want to follow on.
mhm,
And your earlier question was like, how do we think about check sizes? We do have a minimum of 250K.
mhm,
And our strategy did shift a little bit over the years, right? I think as we got better at investing, we're slowing down just the pace of deployment, but increasing the size of our checks so we can have higher
mhm,
ownership percentage. Every company we invest in, we do believe could return the fund. And because we invest with more conviction, our check size average increases too.
mhm,
So earlier on, we would deploy like minimum check size 250K, but lately the average has been closer to like 400 or 500K.
mhm,
And then yeah, and then for fund two, I think we're actually going to double down on that too, and
mhm,
just issue on average 500K checks, maybe up to 1 million, and just have higher check sizes, less amount of portfolio companies, but
mhm.
making sure each one will most likely be a winner.
For sure. So for let's say like 250K checks,
Mhm.
for I guess like what kind of ownership target are you targeting?
Yeah, we don't really have an ownership target.
Mhm.
Um, because that like first with like the valuations lately it's just crazy, right? It's
Yeah,
absolutely insane.
yeah.
I think what matters for us is just getting entry into these companies and
Mhm,
participating.
mhm,
A lot of it is I think for fund two that's going to ownership percentage is going to matter a bit more. And of course I think for us it's pretty interesting. I've only been at Gold House for about like 2 years now, like 1 year as a scout, 1 year full time. um, and I think a common understanding nowadays in ventures, like it's not about awareness of the deals
mhm,
anymore, but about access.
mhm,
I think just given our unique angle with Gold House Foundation, and
mhm,
our membership and our ability to just connect people in a network together, I think the access piece is just really working in our favor,
mhm,
right? I think of
mhm,
all the founders we've talked to, we're able to get into like nearly all the deals we want to get into
mhm,
and get an allocation that makes sense for us too.
mhm,
And so, yeah, for us, I think check size wise, ownership percentage wise, um, yeah, fund one, it was just more about getting into these deals and just kind of
mhm,
demonstrating that, hey, like this affinity angle that we have, the
mhm.
strategic value, it exists, and just proving out that hypothesis.
Totally. How would you package like I guess like not package, but like I guess how do you like do your own CRM? Because I feel like, and then also like in terms of sourcing, do you have like a
Mhm.
particular like sourcing strategy? Because like obviously you guys are like a very strong like Asian leadership group, but like I guess like does the LP help you source, or like obviously like we met at an event like, so like do you source from like actual RL stuff, or I also
Mhm.
hear about like other Asian related funds like people just source from like YC. So like how do you
Yeah.
think about like
Yeah.
the sourcing differentiation from other people? And then also when you mention about like the access to deals, like it's all about like nowadays like it's not that hard to hear about something, but like it's hard to get into the deals.
Yeah.
I guess like for you guys to get into a deal, like what does your like quote unquote pitch look like? Because I kind of feel like when you ask like, and then sometimes I just feel like the deals that you can get into are not necessarily like the best deal. I'm not saying you in particular. I'm just
Sure,
saying in
sure. Yeah,
general.
yeah.
Like in the past, like I was like, oh yeah, like it's so easy to get into blah blah blah. And then my friend were like saying, if they let you in with X, Y, and Z criteria, then they probably are not as popular as you think. Um,
Right, right.
how do
Mhm.
you think about like differentiate like between FOMO and actual
Yeah,
um like popularity
right.
about like a deal? And yeah, like I'll stop there. Like I mean I have
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
lot more to say, but
But
yeah.
that's also, yeah, that's a great question. That kind of goes into a whole like, VCs, they suffer from groupthink and
Mhm,
FOMO and so on. No, which is actually extremely valid.
mhm,
I'll address the first question first about sourcing. The answer is yes. We just do all kinds of sourcing. It's mostly inbound. We do
mhm,
have a venture network with over 600 GPs and partners at all the top tier funds. And when they come across, a founder of Asian heritage or they're investing in a round, they'll send it over to us saying like, hey, we think Goldhouse would make a great strategic partner.
mhm,
We think, being on the cap table will make a lot of sense.
mhm,
And that's to us sends like a really good strong signal saying like, hey, this like top tier funds investing in them, they did their due diligence and they're inviting us to participate in the deal. So we get a lot of
mhm,
inbound flow that way too.
mhm,
And we do exchange deal flow with other friendly VCs. So a lot of it is inbound. And we, because people are aware of Goldhouse too, there's kind of like this halo effect of Goldhouse Foundation. It's like,
mhm,
oh, there's Goldhouse Foundation, but oh, there's, we discovered Goldhouse Ventures as well.
mhm,
So, we're gonna send them an email. Our LPs are super helpful. A lot of Goldhouse members are LPs too, or part of
mhm,
our, network. And let's say you're an executive at like a
mhm,
Fortune 500 company, and be like, oh,
mhm,
hey, yeah, I'm angel investing,
mhm,
or I came across this great solution. You should talk to Goldhouse Ventures. Um, a lot of family, friends, and relatives in our network are founders too.
mhm,
So that's like also like another unique angle.
mhm,
Um, and then yeah, we also do the more typical things like going to accelerators or demo days. Um,
mhm,
and do, I personally go out to a lot of like events in San Francisco, which is where we met, and doing in real
mhm,
life stuff too. I
mhm,
do enjoy that organic touch as well.
mhm,
So we did have some outbound, but it's mostly inbound. I think just due to strong brand of Gold
mhm,
House
mhm,
and just like the you know network we have with other investors. We also have a futures network, which is just like community
mhm,
of founders as well too. And so they'll also send us over like, hey, my friend is raising, we're starting a new company. We'd
mhm.
love to refer you to them too.
Totally. How do you like kind of motivate the GPs to share deals? Because I feel like regardless of like how strong something is, I mean like I feel like obviously like I guess like I feel like the most like top GPs, they're like really busy. They have like 400 other things going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
And like,
Mhm.
how do you motivate them to share a deal? And then do you like systematically track like, oh, among the 600 people, like, XYZ sent the most amount of deal that like we
Yeah.
invest in, or like, how do you like CRM this thing?
Yeah, so CRM wise, we use like mostly Airtable,
Hmm.
but we have other like automation pieces and things in there too. We have dashboards and so on. Yeah,
Hmm.
we do track engagement, right? Because I think that informs like who we invite to a lot of these like events we have, like Gold Gala and so on, because we do want to recognize and appreciate like the top supporters for Gold House too.
Hmm.
And so it's yeah, I mean generally we get along with everybody.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's like the unique angle of Cold House, right? I think people understand we're doing this for the mission. Even the fund itself is structured in a way where the carry and the management fees goes
Hmm.
back to the foundation to accelerate the work we're doing there. So
Hmm.
there is, of course, that altruistic angle, and we've been extremely helpful to all our portfolio companies too.
Hmm.
So from the CRM side, yeah, it's just pretty standard like data and dashboards, just kind of seeing like who's most engaged. Um, and I think there is to some degree, like, a GP top tier fund. Yeah,
Hmm.
they're very busy, a lot of times inaccessible, but if they're
Hmm.
investing in a deal and they know this deal could benefit from Goldhouse's
Hmm.
participation, they'll send it over, right? It's in their best interest as well, too.
Hmm.
And a lot of them will have overlapping passions, right?
Hmm.
A lot of these like GPs or partners, they're all super well connected as well.
Mhm.
So when there are, Asian kind of focused investor or startup events, like they like to come out, find community and so on. It's like a very safe and welcoming place for them, almost like a home.
Mm,
And with that, I think you also asked earlier about the whole FOMO thing,
mhm,
like getting into the deals too.
mhm,
Uh, I think we're lucky in the sense that, when founders come to us, they come, we talk with them,
mhm,
and they usually reserve an allocation amount for us, even when they're
mhm,
oversubscribed, right? It's like,
mhm,
hey, we already filled out the round. It's like oversubscribed. There's no more space left, but we reserved this amount for you because we really want you on the cap table.
mm,
Um, and a lot of times they do that not because they're trying to like signal like exclusivity, but because there is just really strong alignment with the fund.
mhm,
Because yeah, our network is like extensive, so we could source for them the first customers, the board of advisors,
mhm,
recruiting, and so on. And of course, like some deals, are like they don't progress as quickly, but I think that's okay too. Um, because then I think we could truly be contrarian and think
mhm,
like, hey, like based on our unique insights, and we do a lot of like due diligence with the experts in our network as well.
mhm,
We think, hey, we think a missed opportunity that other VCs missed.
mhm. Totally. I wonder, how do you think about like diligencing the deals? Because I feel like um as a generalist fund, it's like really hard to like diligence something really well. And then like also I feel like since we're talking about like a broad category, like anyone couldn't like actually any Asian person could create anything technically. So like how do you quickly source out like I mean like just like weed out like a bunch of deals that doesn't make sense for you?
Yeah, I think this is where metrics kind of like tell a real story.
Mhm,
And of course, people could like inflate metrics and so on, but we definitely do like deeper diligence on it. I think for us, a lot of the areas we invest in now, we become pretty familiar with.
mhm,
However, we do have a couple things that are in our favor. Like one, I mentioned like experts in our network.
mhm,
Like for example, we have an AI advisory council, right? And
mhm,
these are academics and industry leaders and practitioners. That
mhm,
there's something we need to understand more, we just go ask them, like, hey, like
mhm,
um, we're looking into this particular industry or company or like
mhm,
technology. Could you like help us like diligence this a little further? Is this real or not? Same goes for like specific like other industries as well, like maybe healthcare,
mhm,
we've done a couple of healthcare deals, but we
mhm,
have like genuine experts in a venture network. Like we'll just go to a
mhm,
friend we have at like another top tier fund saying like, hey, like we're looking at this deal. What do you think? Based on your experience, like share your thoughts with us too. And they'll give us like very detailed, like thorough assessments,
mhm,
analysis. And same goes for our Gold House members and all these other industries too. Maybe they're not investors per se,
mhm,
but they are truly experts in the field. They've assessed a lot here too. So, we also factor in their expert opinions as well. And of
mhm,
course, nowadays, there's just so much information available too.
mhm,
Um, it's pretty easy now just to get up to speed pretty quickly.
mhm,
And at this point in our fund, we've seen a couple similar concepts come up
mhm,
over and over again. So now we're getting that reputation in
mhm,
and just getting the pattern matching in pretty quickly too. So now
mhm,
we could see like, hey, like this one's different, or like, hey, we did our due diligence, we looked at the market, look at the customers, attraction. Like we think this one could really take off. And there's other signals we look at too. But broadly speaking, yeah, when we do due diligence, it's definitely like a team endeavor.
mm. So let's say like if you're diligencing a company, let's call it like cloud GPU, like because I feel like that's on top of my mind all day, every day.
Uh,
But like let's say like you're diligencing something or like maybe sales software. So it's like I think yeah, like let's just go with like sales software. Like it's because I saw that you guys invest in like some sales related things and
mhm.
like Glen Coco or something like so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder for
You did
that,
your
like
research.
yeah, like so how do you like do like a diligence like that. So like for example, let's say they didn't really have much data and like
Mhm,
I know that in HN not H but like I guess in a Gold House like membership there's like a lot of, like you mentioned like 600 GPs and then a bunch of executives. Um like for a pre-seed or seed stage company, like how do you leverage the network? Because I feel like if every deal I have to go into like a Go House member to be like, hey, can you like diligence this for me? Or like, will you actually shop their product? Like, um, like we're doing Uber for sales, like will people actually take the meeting or like take the meeting for the second time? Because I feel like it's probably not that hard to like be like, hey, dear, I don't know, CRO of Visa, like, can you help me with this? Like, but
Mhm.
they probably won't take the second meeting if the first meeting wasn't like good enough. How do you navigate like to get other people to do partial diligence for you? Um, but also like not burn the bridge. Like I guess like do you have like
Yeah.
a formula on like, oh, we have 600 executive and then this is how we organize them. Like in the sales category, we have 30 sales leaders. Let's go with, I don't know, sales leader 1, 2, 3 this time and then
Mhm.
4,
Yeah,
5,
yeah.
6 next time. Like how do you like
Yeah, yeah.
actually like do the yeah, like the consulting for I guess like the company?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it, and we definitely have, like, a structured process too.
Mhm.
But I think what people miss a lot of times is, like, these people and our members and network, they're actually, like, friends. Like, we're all, like, actual friends.
Yeah.
And they actually like helping us too,
Mhm.
right? I think one is, like, the alignment with the missions, like, knowing, "Oh, like, I'm helping Gold House invest in, like, Asian founder." Yeah, of course, like, and they get to demonstrate the expertise as well. And I think people do enjoy the process, right?
Mhm.
Um I think for a lot of people, they like the idea of analyzing companies, and the fun part, in my opinion, of VC is just kind of understanding like the business, like what kind of future they could create, how it fits into today's like, ecosystem, and so on. So I think for a lot of people, it's actually fun, and I do think a lot of people feel like they're providing a lot of value, and because they truly are.
Mhm.
And because they're friends, it's not like as formal as like, dear Mr. XYZ, we would
Mhm.
like deeply appreciate your, like, it's not like that's like, yo, what's up, man?
Mhm.
Like, hey, could I get a quick call with you? Or could you like
Mhm.
review this for me? Like, for example, like there's a couple AI automated user research platforms out there.
Mhm.
And, I've seen like maybe like 6, 7 of them. And one of my friends works at one of the largest animation studios. And, he's actively in the marketing department. He's actively looking for things like this.
Mhm.
So I'll be like, yo, like, I'm going to send you like a couple of these. I could just try it out
Mhm.
and let me know your thoughts. Literally just like
Mhm.
2 text messages, right? Or like
Mhm.
an email. And then he'll just come back to me. We'll get on a call and we'll just kind of talk through it. It's good for us because we get his expert insights. It's good for him too, because for his
Mhm.
job and his company, they're looking for these solutions as well.
Mhm. Totally. How do you like maintain these relationships? Because I mean, like I think it's like hard to like actually know what everybody's looking for, and then sometimes I feel like, oh, okay, so let's say if I'm like seeing a security startup, AI startup, that's like literally could be anyone and anything, and then like
Mhm.
if I just send it to my, I don't know, a CISO mentor, and then like they be like, oh, uh, like I mean, they probably would do the first time for you, but like I just feel like depends on the deal quality, right? Like, and then like if the
Mhm.
deal is like actually suck, like how do you like
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back from that relationship? Obviously, you
Yeah,
filter out by yourself first, but like
right,
since you
sure.
have not seen like 600 deal in a category, because like I think this is the problem of being a generalist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like as a generalist, like you're depending on the expert, but like the expert is like, you don't want to burn the expert so much that they're like, you're actually
Right.
stupid. So
Yeah.
that's my big
Yes.
fear. That's my big fear. I'm like, oh, okay. So like, I mean, I did some research. This seems like legit-ish.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, on the other hand, like you kind of don't want to send like 6 other email to the same
Yeah,
guy.
like crappy deals, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, most due diligence we do as much upfront. So there's
Mhm.
usually like a lot of reason why we wouldn't, we would disqualify a company that just wouldn't be a fit for us, right?
Right.
And hard things like maybe just like way beyond like stage, or there's just not customer traction, or we don't think there's like good like XYZ reason. So I mean,
Mhm.
of course, like we internally filter through a lot as well.
Mhm.
I think the ones we do send to our experts and partners are ones that we are actually at an investment decision on, and
Mhm.
we've developed enough conviction that, hey, this is something we actually could invest in a large amount. So let's like
Mhm.
double down and make sure we do
Mhm.
a deep due diligence. And
Wait, I have
those are
a
the
question.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah go
so
ahead.
sorry. I have like a question. So like for example, that's when you're saying diligence, does this means like you're just Googling a bunch of stuff, or like does this means like you have to chat with their potential customers? Like let's say for example, you chat with a potential
Mhm.
customer, maybe that customer is like not the target audience for that startup. But like
Yeah.
or you chat with like industry expert. Let's say you're investing in
Mhm.
an AI startup and you chat with someone from OpenAI. And then the OpenAI guy will be like, okay, so like I don't think there's like a market for this, but maybe that's not the same guy who will be like using that platform.
Yeah.
Um, but the problem is like how many people you have to chat with to actually get a sense of it. And maybe it's like your network's like biases. Like so for example,
Sure.
your
Mhm.
network maybe like very like, highly technical or like, very we live in a Silicon Valley bubble, like everybody's like not like
Yeah. Yeah.
broke like and then but like when you actually offering the same service to somewhere else, let's say like I don't know, PhD student in like Michigan or something, like that's a very different story than like you're offering like
Mhm.
end from like Silicon Valley to the same dev tool or something. So like I wonder, how do you like kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
diversify this and then like diversify your like diligence process, and then also like what kind of question would you ask them? Like, so would you just be like, hey,
Mhm.
do you think there's a market for this, or is this more deeply technical? Like, hey, can you do some like technical diligence for me to like understand if this is like actually making sense? Like, and then
Yeah.
how many calls do you have to actually call to be like, oh, I'm done
Yeah.
with the diligence? But we're
Mhm.
like generalist funds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, all amazing questions. I think the diligence piece is we spend so much time on it too. And this is where you really can't be lazy. I think different companies are at different stages of finding that product market fit. Like the diligence we do for Series B is going to look drastically different from like a pre-seed, like accelerated
Mhm,
company. You
mhm,
know, if we look at Series A, Series B is much more metrics heavy.
mhm.
Um, and there's a lot more customers who do due diligence on, and
Like,
you could
how
be a
many
little bit
is
more
a lot?
specific.
So how many is a lot? Is that like 50 or like is it more
No,
like
not
5?
that much. Yeah, I
Like
think we
just
look at
5?
like
Okay.
yeah, I would say like yeah, around there. Because I think after that you could kind of understand like, you know, at that point, the more mature you are, of course, there's a lot more different products, but at the point you could kind of understand like which ones are their top customers with the highest ACVs, best retention, and so on. You look at those customers, and you know you just kind of see like, hey, could we get on a call? Could you just tell us what you think? What's like working on the founders? And interestingly, usually one of the customers will be someone in our network too. So we'll get that just
Mm.
like pure truth, right? Um,
Oh, I have another question on that. So you mentioned
okay,
like,
sure,
for
sure.
example,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Like I was just
No,
like
let's
I'm
go. I
like
love this. Yeah.
over the place sometimes. Okay, so you mentioned about like you would like text someone. Like I think the texting part is like when you like text someone on the diligence, like how do you like quickly think of someone? So sometimes like I think I'm pretty sure like someone in my network would know this, but like
Mhm.
I just like don't have the brain power to be like who exactly knows this. Like how do you
Yeah, yeah.
categorize the CRM to be like, okay,
Mhm.
let me type in, I don't know, like a very
Yeah.
subject expertise, I don't know,
Yeah.
consumer hardware or like something, and then like there's like 5 people pop up. Like how
Mhm.
do you, I guess, like quickly source the expert from your own network?
Right. I mean, top of mind are just people who are like close friends of ours, right?
Mhm,
And you know, I think VC is such a like relationship driven network, and
mhm,
you know everyone knows this. And I think our team, we're very lucky and fortunate to have a wide breadth and depth of relationships. And because we don't like, you know, in terms of like relationship management, we have like
mhm,
quarterly call schedule with a lot of like most engaged VC partners.
mhm,
We see a lot of our friends and you know industry experts at a lot of the events we host too, and people refer other people as well. And but for me, you know, it's like I would say I have like a large network of loose connections. So
mhm,
then for me, it's like just kind of easy to bucket people based on like where they
mhm,
work, what the expertise
mhm,
are. For me, that just comes a little naturally. So it's just, oh, like I know this person works here. Like for example, like someone's doing work on data labeling, who would
mhm,
be interested. Oh, Perplexity, I know someone from there. Open, yeah, of course. And you know, I think it's just easy to make those like connection
mhm,
notes. Um, of course, like once you get to like couple thousand people in the network, that becomes like impossible. So as you
mhm,
said, the CRM definitely helps, and we also track like who's engaged, who's a member, who's helpful, and all that. So from there, you know, if we do need to do more specific or niche diligence,
mhm.
we're able to find those people too. But obviously, I think friends will love to help friends, and we could trust their judgment. They've been in the industry for so long. Like our founder, like Bing Chen, he literally knows like almost everyone, and he's so good at like, finding the right archetypes of people to bring in. So yeah, I think we could move very quickly in that sense to do the diligence part.
Totally. How do you think about like, I guess like for the diligence checklist, like I guess like do you guys have I'm sure like you require people from like to give you like a certain type of data and like I wonder do you have a checklist on like on the processes like like to standardize your deal evaluation funnel. Like, so it's like, for example, we chat with 5 customers. Here's how we find them. Maybe 2 of them are provided by the company, and the 3 of them we find it in
Mhm.
our own network. And then what would be in your deal memo to like um just like summarize to the whole team and
Yeah,
like just like document the or like standardize the processes to like evaluate.
right. Yeah, we do think every company is different,
Mhm,
and the landscape is changing so quickly. It's hard to like compare um,
mhm,
apples to apples. But I would say like we do have a structured memo,
mhm,
right? There's like certain things that like we look for, like market, team, product, whatever, and we also try to make comparables within the stages. If we're doing like a fintech Series B, we want to see most recently what other fintech Series B companies have we evaluated or that it's on the market to just to kind of see like does this make sense in terms of like the
mhm,
amount they're raising, the valuation, the competitiveness.
mhm,
um, so yeah, I think, but every company that we invest in, they have some unique angle. So then
mhm,
the question becomes mostly is like, will this unique angle, unique service or technology be a transformative advantage?
mhm,
And I think that's the most difficult part to diligence, because it's really hard to compare that. There's a couple
mhm,
of companies out there who do offer the same kind of service or underlying technology, and there's like a little bit of differences here and there. But just finding that subset and making those comparisons, there's only so many out there, right? And so it's like, oh, there's only like 3 or 4 real
mhm,
customers or competitors here. Like we recently invested in a startup that helps like startups get onto the cloud federal like security system. Um, and when we looked, there's like, what they could do is actually pretty game changing. No other
mhm,
company like could do what they do in terms of technology wise. They are just like
mhm,
so ahead. A lot of competitors we saw offers like a solution in the sense that like, hey, we help your startup sell to the government, right? That's always a solution. There's like a lot of
mhm,
those, but the actual technological advantage, like this company
mhm,
only had it at that time. So that's like a very like quick diligence, right?
mhm,
Like we compared them to incumbents, and we saw the incumbent had like a workaround shortcut solution, but not like a real
mhm,
solution. So like, oh, okay, like this is like the real deal.
mhm,
So depending on the industry, the dynamics, who the competitors are, what the technology maturity is in those industries. Like for example, like insurance or real estate, defense, there's still so many low hanging fruits, right?
mhm,
That'll look very different from, let's say, valuing a consumer business, which is more like
mhm,
direct to consumer and so on. Different metrics,
mhm,
different expectations, different challenges. So we're looking much more at the enterprise market.
mhm,
And I think the diligence there, it's a bit more technical, I
mhm.
would say. But at that time, it's just a different approach in terms of like metrics and numbers and so on.
Totally. Love that. How do you what's your frequency to like like invest in a deal? So like do you have like a cadence that like, hey, in quarter one, we need to shoot for investing in like 5 deals and like we need to land 75 LP. So or like what's a entire vibe on like operating
Right.
like both investing and like also fundraising as well?
Yeah, I think we have an investment period of like X number of years, right? And
Mhm.
then
Like 3.
that's what,
Like
yeah,
I think
30,
that's everyone.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But
That's what
every
the
month you have
LP.
to invest in a deal ish.
Like typically, right? But I mean, I
Yeah.
think some seasons, I think it depends on your sourcing strategy too, right?
Mhm,
If you have a really good pipeline of quality deals, maybe you'll invest like a little bit of a quicker pace.
mhm,
But I do think there are seasonalities, like maybe in the summer and winter, people go on vacation and so on. So deal flow kind of slows down a bit because the VCs are on vacation, whatever.
mhm,
Um, So yeah, seasonality wise, so I don't think there's like a hard month to month quota. I do think that might be a little bit irresponsible because we do not want to get into a low quality deal because
Mhm,
we feel like there's this like artificial metric of it. We need to invest in X money.
mhm,
I would say like our investment activity just really picked up like recently this
mhm,
year compared to like January, February,
mhm,
right? Like we do evaluate a lot of deals still, but in terms of like we want to make sure, we're patient also with that capital and just choose the right ones too. Because I think the opportunity cost is huge.
mhm,
Maybe we invest in a company that invests like 5 times, like in
mhm,
January, but then because of that, we run out of money and miss out on a company that'll return 100x, like last
mhm,
month, for example. Um, so I think as long as we're hitting our deployment progress, at least on an
mhm,
annual basis, I think we're okay. And lately we have been seeing a lot of like super high quality deals. So I think timing wise has been really good. And because and we have room to play around with, right? In terms of like check size and ownership targets
mhm,
and so on. So yeah, lately we've been seeing a lot of high quality deals come through. We've been increasing our check size. Deployment wise, I think we're totally fine.
mm. By the way, hi, Gian. I wanted to say out of the audience.
Hey,
What
John.
about what's your thoughts on like fundraising as a fund? Like, I don't know, like
Mhm.
maybe I don't know, since you joined like a year slash 2 years ago, and how do you think about like fundraising for Goat House?
Yeah, it's I do think being a VC just you're just a professional yapper. You're just always
Yeah,
talking to people, always.
yeah.
Yeah, we're raising fund to Megan Ruan is like just leading all of those, chatting with
Mhm,
all the foundations, institutional capital, and so
mhm,
on. I try to help here and there. We're definitely an emerging manager, and
mhm,
I think Fund One's showing like really good signs so that our
mhm,
strategy is working.
mhm,
Our MOIC is at 1.3x, which for our vintage is actually like top like quartile, maybe the top
mhm,
decile actually.
mhm,
Um, and our portfolio too, we have really strong companies in there as well. I think the question is like, I think we're a little bit more exposed to the political considerations just because of
mhm,
our specific angle of empowering
mhm,
Asian founders. But
mhm,
I don't think that's a big deal more than anything. Definitely fundraising is hard. It's hard for everyone,
mhm,
unless you're like those super mega funds, right?
mhm,
But I think we do have a lot of like friendly and a lot of LPs who are Asian too. They want to help
mhm,
us, so it's been super helpful to like have those conversations. They are our champions as well. And interestingly enough, I spent a lot of time in Korea recently.
mhm,
There's a lot of interest from Korea to enter the U.S.
mhm,
market
mm,
with the LPs, the startups, the VC funds. And I think there's like a lot of good opportunity there just to work internationally. And Goldhouse, we also have our Gold Bridge initiative.
mhm,
Um, and so just bridging Asia and the US too. So I think there's good alignment there as well. So yeah, I think domestically and internationally, like fundraising is always hard, right?
mhm,
And as any founder will tell you, you're going to go through a lot of rejections before you get the term sheets and so on. I think it's the same for like VCs. Like we got to fundraise, we got to go talk to LPs and kind of demonstrate our performance, why we're the right team, and so on. So
mm,
yeah, fundraising wise, yeah, a lot of our LP base is like diversified between people in our network, high net worth individual, family offices, institutional capital, and so on. And so every LP just looking for something a little different.
mm. How do you think about like for like LPs, like what would be at the beginning, do you have like a major anchor at the very early
Mhm.
on? Or like do you feel like it was like just getting small amount of money from like 1,000 top GPs, like that's a
Mhm.
vibe to go?
Yeah, Fund Two is definitely more like anchor focus, having like just
Mhm.
big
What
checks,
about
just
Fund
anchor us
1?
down.
What about Fund
Fund
1?
One, yeah, Fund One is just more like a collection, I would say.
Got it.
I think we do have some big checks from like family offices and so on, but a lot of like friends and family.
Mm.
Mhm.
So at
Yeah.
the beginning, I guess like for the let's say the first like 20 LPs, are they like always small or like within for the first 20 people you pitch, someone have to land as like an anchor or like writing the
Yeah,
fund
I
making
mean,
back.
yeah, I definitely think Megan would know a lot more about this than I do.
Mhm,
But I would say like the initial couple checks are from
mhm,
friendly people, and
mhm,
these are like relationships we've nurtured for years, right?
mhm,
But yeah, at a high level, I would say the first 20 years just come from very friendly people that we've been, having these conversations with for a while.
Mhm.
And so this could be a mix of like family office or big institutional bank or so on.
Mm, for
But yeah,
sure.
I think, every LP, well, I mean, every fund typically has like a cap in terms of
Mhm,
like number of LPs, right?
mhm.
Either like 99, 109,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm,
So there is like an order of like, okay, we should definitely prioritize the people who are the most passionate about our mission, also could like provide a equivalent check size that's proportional to their interests and so on.
mhm.
And we understand that, deployment for a lot of these LPs, it could take a long time depending like whether you're an institution, a foundation or so on. So we factor all of that in.
Totally. Okay, so I wanna, be mindful of time. Maybe I would
Mhm.
end with, like, a quick 1-minute fire round.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book, oh, it's
Mhm.
Pachinko.
What is that?
Yeah, Pachinko. Oh my God, it is um, a historical saga. It's like historical fiction,
Mm,
but it spans across three generations. Apple actually made a TV series about it too. But the book itself, it follows a Korean family across three generations, from the
mhm.
post-Korean War. The main character, she's like post-Korean War, and then it just shows her like from growing to be like um, a young girl into a mother to a grandmother, and just kind of
Oh.
shows how the family dynamics and she starts from Korea, moves to Japan,
Mhm,
um, and then it's just like it's such an insane book to me because it really helped me understand why my ancestors or my grandparents, my parents operate the way they do, kind of seeing what they lived through, right? And understanding how that informed their decisions, their life choices, their moral principles. I mean, the book ends with like the last generation being someone of my generation. And I could relate so hard. It's like,
mhm,
that's literally me in the last third of the book, but just kind of seeing like the family dynamics, the lessons that get instilled, and like the struggles and challenges that people like my
mhm,
grandparents or mother, just being illustrated in such a vivid detail.
mhm,
And because it's like Korean family too, right? It just
mhm,
explains so much, and I just gained so much more empathy for my parents.
mhm,
Right. I think growing up, I just never understood from a cultural perspective why do they do this? Like, why do
mhm,
we, have very different perspectives on X, Y, Z?
mhm,
But kind of reading that's like, oh, like if I lived in that kind of life, I don't think I would have been turned out any different from my parents too,
mhm,
right? And just having this powerful story of just building it, even though it's fiction, I think it's grounded in a lot of like real life scenarios and truths.
mhm,
And so I think having that like 100-year perspective,
mhm,
it was just so powerful and so relevant. And
mm,
so this is why lately I've been really into like fiction books because it
mhm,
helps me live a life that I never would have experienced otherwise.
mhm,
And it helps me just kind of broaden my horizons and develop compassion for people.
mhm,
And so, yeah, Pachinko, all-time favorite book. Second favorite book, probably like a lot of these behavioral economic books, right? Just
mhm,
understanding what my cognitive biases are, where my thinking is like either fast or slow, like when should I think about things in a certain way, like where should I be careful with my biases, especially when you're evaluating opportunities. And so, yeah, a couple of
mm.
favorite books there.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Who would I invite to my dinner party? You're
Mhm.
invited.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll chat.
exciting. Uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, I think, yeah, honestly, the person I'll probably invite is like maybe like Obama and
mhm.
actually lately it's been like, Abraham Lincoln on my mind.
Love.
As,
Why?
yeah, as our country's just going through a lot of like polarization and
Mhm.
turmoil, I think people are just getting disillusioned, they're losing hope. But if we look at back in history, it's like we had it worse. We had an actual civil war and
Yeah,
we were
that's
able
so
to recover from that,
scary. Oh my
right?
god. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, how do you not demonize the other party? Like, and I just want to talk with like, President Lincoln about how did you navigate that when there was actually like a fractured country dealing with like, deep social issues like slavery and so on, right? I think people are really scared right now. People are feeling hopeless, and people just have a lot of animosity towards each other. But I think we do need to understand and learn from history. Like, how do we come back? So I think President Lincoln would be really good.
Mhm,
President Obama too. I think not to make anything political, of course, but I think him being the first Black president, um, you know, what are the lessons he learned? Because I think Asians too, right? I think we're doing a lot of firsts this time around too on the national stage. Um,
Mhm,
people like Jensen Huang, like become
mhm,
super, like kind of like a Tim Cook level, like legendary figure. First time.
mhm,
A
mhm,
lot of the shows, movies, film, they're winning awards, sweeping awards. And for the first time, I think Asians are coming up to like the global stage. And so just kind of understanding what like the challenges of that, what the pitfalls, how to remain humble, and so on.
mm. Uh, who made the biggest impact in your career?
The biggest impact?
Mhm,
Oh gosh. There's so many people I want to thank. A
mhm,
lot. Seriously, a lot. I would say from a professional standpoint,
mhm,
the two managers at Booz Allen, they really, really showed like what leadership looks like.
mhm,
And they were extremely supportive of all the initiatives I wanted to do. They wrote recommendations for my grad school program. It's just like unconditional support. And
mhm,
I just respect them so much for that. If it wasn't for that early support, I don't think it would have snowballed into where I am today.
mm,
Um, how to like manage people, how do you deal with like politics, how
mhm,
do you, think about innovation and so on. So I'm always grateful to them, like always.
mhm,
And so even though, I might not have to do anything with like investing now, I think the
mhm.
soft skills, the cultural things I learned from them, like I'll carry with me for like the rest of my professional career.
Wow.
Mhm.
Where can we find you outside work?
Outside work on the tennis courts. Yeah, I fly around a lot for work, so you'll
Mhm,
probably see me LA, New York, Chicago. My like sanctuary is San Diego, just on
mhm,
the beach, showing the nature there. So you could probably just find me there chilling as well too. Yeah, but in SF, you'll see me at a lot of like the restaurants.
mhm.
I'm a foodie, I love trying new foods. So,
Love. Okay.
mhm.
Also, hi, John. I wanted to say hi to any audience who comments. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
well, thank you so much, Daniel. It was such a
Thank you,
nice
Grace.
conversation.
Okay, so nice to have this conversation too.
You too. Let me quickly end stream one sec.